Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be running through these three utility bars on the right side of the NS-1 NanoSynth from Sound Machines in Italy. The patch that I'm using is very simple. I'm taking a square wave from the oscillator, going through the filter, low pass out to the VCA, and the VCA going to the output. And I'm using the square wave of two of my LFOs. One of them is running slow, and the other one is running fast. Now if I take that fast LFO and plug it into the clock divider, and I need to tilt this up so I can see what I'm doing, find the right hole. Of course, as you know, the little arrow means input. Immediately below that it says reset. And when the reset is also an input, and when it receives a pulse, it resets the counter to 0 and starts all of the divisions over. And what this thing does is it takes the incoming pulse and it counts the number of pulses. And for every division of 2, it toggles the successive outputs on and off. So this divided by 2, divided by 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. And each stage runs at half the speed of the previous stage. You can use that to have a bunch of rhythmically coordinated events based on one master clock. Now, just for a refresher, there's our raw LFO. If I want to use the voltage divider as a means of real quick and dirty attenuating that by a fixed amount, this will divide the input voltage by 2/3, 1/2, and 1/3. So if I take my 2/3 output, it's noticeably quieter. I can't divide 5 by 3 in my head, but that is 2/3 of 5 volts. That's 1/2. It's real quiet. That's 2.5 volts. And then 1/3 is so quiet you can't hear it at my present mixer settings. Anyway, that's the voltage divider. Moving on, I'm going to skip these for a second and go to AND. AND is one of the Boolean logic gates, or logic operators as some people like to call them. They are digital and they only consider whether a signal is on or off. Presumably there's a threshold which would be around 2.5 volts. So if the signal is lower than that, it's considered to be off, and if it's higher, it is considered to be on. Now, AND requires that both of the inputs be high for the output to be high. And so, if both of my square waves are on, it spits out a 5-volt gate. And what we are hearing is the fast LFO, but it's only getting through when the slow LFO is high because of the nature of the AND gate. Now, this over here is NOT, and what NOT does is it simply outputs the opposite of the input. If I plug into this with nothing plugged into the input, I get a 5-volt signal because the opposite of nothing is something, and NOT always outputs the opposite. Now then, if I do this, now my AND output, let's just remind ourselves, that's what AND sounded like. It was choppy, it was staccato. If I use the NOT gate on it, I get the opposite. Alright, so then moving down to the next one, our next logic operator is OR. And OR is on anytime one of the inputs is on, because it's this or that. Our previous one was this and that. They both had to be on. In the case of OR, it doesn't matter, just one of them has to be on. And so you get a little bit more gate time out of that because of the way it works. Now the next one down here is NAND, which stands for not and yields the same results as running the AND gate through the NOT. It's the opposite of AND. It is only on when one of the outputs is off. And it sounds like the opposite of AND. The next section is buttons, and this is pretty straightforward. They're numbered 1, 2, and 3. You have 2 outputs per button, and the buttons are numbered. There's a 0-volt pin here at the bottom. I'm not sure why. But anyway, the button outputs 5 volts when it is pressed. So you can use that to manually get your VCA like I'm doing. You could use it to trigger your envelope. You could use it to trigger the sample and hold. You could use it to do mysterious things with the Arduino if you learn how to code that, which I haven't. Anyway, yes, buttons. We have 3 of them. Now we get to the really mysterious part. I don't remember if this was in the PDF manual or if I had to go searching through the forums to find out what in the world SB1 and SB2 are for. Turns out SB stands for sensor block, and they are for connecting electronic components. SB1, you have 2 of them that are identical. They have a 5-volt pin at the top, a 0-volt pin at the bottom, and a 3-legged mult in the middle. Now you can actually use that as a mult or a signal splitter without doing anything with the voltage pins. You can use that center part as a mult if you want to. SB2 has a slightly different layout, and there are 4 legs on the mult. And the panel, I don't know if that means that 0 volts is connected to the mult or what, but I'm not going to use that one. Anyway, for purposes of demonstration, what I have here is a light sensitive resistor. And I'm going to plug it in right here. So one leg of the resistor is in the 5-volt socket and the other leg is connected to the mult. And so I can do this, connecting that to the CV input of the oscillator. So now this photoresistor is in between a 5-volt source and my oscillator. And the way these work, resistance decreases as the light hitting it increases. So let me take my fast LFO. And you can already hear a difference. Now watch this. As the shadow of my thumb falls over the photoresistor, the darker it gets, the higher the resistance. I keep thinking about it backwards. But anyway, stuff like this, now you can control your synth by waving your hands in the air between this and a light source. Kind of cool. Kind of theremin-like. Anyway, you can plug conventional like twisty pots in there. You can put capacitors in there, or just anything you want to try. That's what the sensor blocks are for. And that's it. We've covered everything. This video was kind of long, but I hope you found it informative, and I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.